All right, guys, welcome to Freedom Files, episode 6. I'm running out of my Spanish words, so I'm just going to say 6.
Yeah, I was going to...
Seis.
Seis.
All right, there you go, episode 6. Okay, today we're going to talk about a lot of things. We're going to go over the new background fee increase that's starting July 1st. Yes, that's right, guys. If you didn't think the state of California was greedy enough, they're going to be taking 5 times as much as they take. So it's going to go from $1 to $5. We'll talk about that in a minute.
They always surprise you.
Spirit of the law, letter of the law. But first, I'm going to introduce our awesome guest. All right, Law Enforcement Sergeant Phil Harris. All right, he was born and raised in this area. Okay, he was a high school athlete, combat arms Marine, a family man, a seasoned law enforcement official, and a range shooting instructor. Welcome, Phil.
Thank you for having me. Appreciate it, and glad to be here.
And once again, we're drinking last call beer, so cheers, everybody. All right, let me get right off the. Oh well, first let me show a gun. So just like always, beginning of the episode, I show a cool gun. These are new from Colt. If everybody follows Colt, you know that Colt was just purchased by another firearms organization. Right? Yeah, CZ Arms. Yep. So Colt's still making awesome firearms, okay, and this one is called the Grizzly. And this one, let's see if this is the Grizzly. No, this is the Kodiak. Okay, so they come out with 2 different variants right now. They're both on the California roster, so you can come on in and get them. The Kodiak is in .44 Magnum. The Grizzly is in .357. These are single double action revolvers. The Grizzly is in .357. Basically, it's a Python and an Anaconda that's all decked out. So they've got this cool, smooth, round cylinder. They've got a buttery-like worked action to them, and they're ported as well. So this is a great gun. This is available.
Yeah, they're pretty smooth.
Yeah, they are smooth. This is available at Fred's Firearms. All right, let's talk about this ammunition background fee. Okay, just when you thought that your state was easing up on the aggression to the Second Amendment, think again. So, yes, California is planning to increase the cost of ammunition eligibility checks from $1 to $5 per authorization. To give you guys an idea of this, in 2019, California implemented a background check for ammunition as well, not just firearms. That ammunition check, if you're already a firearm owner, is $1. So you come into a firearm store, you want to buy some ammunition, they have to run a background check on you, it's $1. After they approve you, which should be that day, it should be instant, then you can walk out with that with $1 extra. So not only do they have the 11% excise tax on that ammunition, but now, July 1st, they're taking the $1 and cranking it up 500% to $5. The proceeds increase the ammunition purchase fee in California is being driven by the California Department of Justice, which I wish would be abolished, but it's not. They have proposed to raise the fee for background checks on ammunition from $1 to $5 per transaction. The DOJ argues that the current $1 fee is insufficient to cover the cost of operating the ammunition authorization program. I have a good solution for that. Just get rid of that whole program.
Yeah.
What say you guys?
It seems like that would work. Seems like that would work.
It seems like it would work good. All right, so keep in mind that's coming, okay? I can't stand it, but I stay in California, got a lot of family here, got a lot of assets, property, everything else. So this is my state. I'm going to hope that something changes in 26 and keep my fingers crossed. But even with all this stuff, this state is a great place to be. The funds for this is going to go to the Gun Violence Prevention Program. This is probably going to be a program that's a lot like our homeless program. It works real well, where they just keep dumping money into it, and they've just
solved dumping money into something besides that?
Yeah, of course. It's a funnel thing. Yeah. It's funny how we can all get in trouble, for evading taxes or embezzling. But if you're a government official,
they keep getting richer.
You get to do it, yeah. It's supposed to reduce gun violence, okay? The proponents argue that the tax will help reduce gun violence by funding programs that address the root cause of gun violence and improving school safety. As a major crimes unit sergeant, what do you think about that?
I think the terminal. I'm so skeptical of things like that because there's no true accountability, at least from the the documents you have and the information that's available. It's so broad and vague. Like, what does that really mean? Where are these funds really going to go? If on the side of thinking everything's going to go the way you hope it, oh yeah, that'd be great. But unfortunately, the way that politicians and the way people like to talk smooth and everything, it makes everybody so skeptical. So it's okay, yeah, sounds great, but we'll see what actually happens.
So the Attorney General's office, or Bonta's office, who's the head of the DOJ, has said that the tax revenue can also be used by law enforcement to seize firearms from individuals who are prohibited from owning them. Okay, I want to get into that too, because when the DOJ comes into town, they usually have to utilize the base of the law enforcement that has experience with, well, I'm just going to say it, like actual bad guys and everything, you know what I mean? So your interaction with DOJ agents, I know that they mean the best, and I know that they do good things and they make the community safer. I just don't feel that by having the people that are following the rules and regulations getting punished, and that's what I think this is. You're increasing your fees by 500%. You're punishing these people that are willing to follow these regulations. That's not okay. You give certain discounts and rebates to people, except for in this field. And it's a continuous, let's pick on them, pick on them, pick on them. It's the only commodity that is protected by an amendment of the Constitution. So that's where I see an issue with this.
Well, it's a tool to kind of like squeeze the person that's, do I want to buy one or not because of all this BS. So it's trying to make people say, yeah, you know what, it's not worth it. That's what that's the goal.
Well, yeah, and that's also happened in the CCW realm as well, with SB2 CCW, basically telling people like, hey, we're going to increase the cost, we're going to increase the time, and you can't carry it in 2/3 of the places that you could carry it before.
I mean, if the state could, they would ban it outright.
I don't know, dude. I don't know if they would or not.
I
Here's
think
why.
they would.
Here's why. Because people keep paying it. People continue.
Well, right, they keep paying, but that's what we keep saying. But also, they keep coming up with these new laws and making it harder and harder.
It's been very aggressive lately. It has.
I mean, if they wanted that money, they would make it easier. I mean, that's what, makes sense to me. I mean,
here's an argument for it. The critics include gun rights advocates argue that fee increases placed substantial financial burden on law-abiding gun owners who are already subject to other taxes and regulations. It impacts the Second Amendment rights. I just kind of went over that. Some argue that the tax infringes on Second Amendment rights. I think the same thing. I think it does. And that the increased costs make it more difficult for citizens to exercise their right to own firearms for self-defense or recreation. And then the potential for unintended consequences is there is concern that the increase may lead to unintended consequences such as increased illegal gun sales or black market activity. In other words, it's basically saying, and this will occur, like, hey, way back in the day, it wasn't illegal for Bob to sell Jim his neighbor's ammunition or whatever. That all became recently in law in the last decade. That became like, you can't do that anymore. You have to go into a gun store and do it. Well, not many people do that. I think I brought up before the point, if you've ever sold a vehicle to someone, a used vehicle, and then you go into the DMV, the first thing that person asks you that's purchasing the vehicle off you is like, hey man, I know I'm giving you 10 G's right now, but can you just put that it's like $600 or $800, So they go into the DMV so they don't have to pay that additional taxes, which at one point in the past we all thought was unconstitutional because double taxation. So a lot of people do that. Well, guess what, ladies and gents, you're all a felony if you do that. If you practice that knowingly, the act, or should I say the chance of you actually having consequences on that action are slim to none. So everybody's still doing it. So this, as far as ammunition taxation and ammunition rights to have to come in and bring all these documentations and do this background check and pay 5 times as much, is probably going to cause that person to purchase it from their neighbor that goes to Nevada and comes back with a truckload of ammo.
Yeah.
And the likelihood of them getting caught is next to none. Well, fine, but that does hurt the gun store industry. It hurts retail, and it hurts, at the end of the day, it kind of hurts the community as well, because I disagree with the excise taxation, but we do have a local sales tax, which is pretty manageable, and that goes back into the state and the cities. And by the way, it doesn't go a lot back into the cities that you're in. Did you know that we only get like 10% of the sales tax in town when you buy something in Oakdale?
Really? The state gets the majority of it?
State's getting the majority of it.
Yeah, of course.
Because they're greedy, nasty bums, that's why. So, anyway, you know where I stand on that. All
Tell
right.
us how you really feel.
Yeah. I mean, a few more drinks, we'll take a shot or two, and we'll get into it. Okay. Let's talk about spirit of the law, letter of the law. We talk in our CCW classes about spirit of the law versus letter of the law being you get pulled over for whatever reason, and or you have an encounter with law enforcement for whatever the reason is. I mean, it's not going to be a major crime reason, but like a minor crime reason, like, oh, I'm speeding a little bit too fast, or I didn't, come to a complete stop at a stop sign, or, I'm out in public and I have an encounter with law enforcement, whatever it is, okay? And there's nobody that's harmed involved, so there doesn't have to be the letter of the law based because there's no actual victim. The victim would be the actual government or the state or the county. And the law enforcement, you're getting along great with them, and they say, I'll tell you what, man, or I'll tell you what, ma'am. You've been really respectful to me. I really appreciate your compliance. And just next time, try and slow it down, or make sure you stop at a stop sign, or be aware of your surroundings, or whatever. And there's the spirit of the law, okay? The letter of the law is a little different. Whereas, hey, you violated this infraction or this crime, I'm going to write you a ticket, or this is how it's going to be. That's the letter of the law versus the spirit.
Yeah.
So in CCW, carrying there's spirit of the law, letter of the law as well, especially when it comes to all these laws that are pushed down your throat, like the SB2, where, don't carry it on your person if you're driving here, and put it in a locked container if you're doing this, and don't be in this area. Let me ask you, as a law enforcement official that deals with major and minor crimes in our community, tell me about your experiences with CCW carriers, and tell me how you would want them to present that they are a CCW carrier to you, or would you?
Yeah, so definitely. Well, let me back up a little bit, just so everybody knows my kind of my history, and I've worked several different assignments. I've been in law enforcement for coming up on 13 years now.
Wow, time flies.
I know,
Yeah.
right? I've worked patrol, I've worked narcotics, I've worked gangs, and now I am major crimes. So violent crimes basically is a better way to put it. So kidnapping, robbery, homicide, those type of things. So I have a decent amount of experience in several different areas. But what I would prefer in a situation like you were describing, like a traffic stop, right? That's most people's, I'd say that's the most common interaction with law enforcement, right? It's going to be like a traffic stop. First of all, just so everybody out there knows, and I'm sure you already do, but the hands are very important to a law enforcement officer. So keeping your hands visible, usually just keeping them on the wheel, right? And then just making eye contact with the deputy or officer that's pulling you over, and just letting them know when appropriate, right? Like, I'm sure when they stop you, say, I'm Deputy Harris, I stopped you because you ran that stop sign back there. And then that would be an opening for you. Okay, I understand. Just so you know, I have a firearm, and then wherever you have it, on your hip, in your center console, in your glove box, wherever you happen to be carrying that firearm at that time, without reaching, without pointing, without gesturing, just notifying them verbally, and only verbally, that I have a firearm. And from there, that deputy or officer will make a decision on how they handle that situation. It's going to highly depend on why you were stopped in the first place. You're going to get a very different reaction if you were stopped for a traffic violation, so speeding or a stop sign, or you didn't turn your turn signal on or something like that, as opposed to if you just happen to match the description of somebody that just robbed a liquor store, right?
Or you're evading.
Yeah, you know, you're
You're
gonna
gonna get drawn down on no matter
yeah,
what.
you're gonna get a different reaction. So it just all depends, and just whatever you do, whatever the deputy or officer tells you to do, just do that thing, whatever it is. If they tell you to step out of the car, step out of the car. If they tell you to put one hand on top of your head, put one hand on top of your head. If they tell you to follow Fred's Firearms on social media, then you should probably just do that.
Probably
right?
just do that.
You
No
know,
matter
but
what. You
whatever
just do
they
that.
happen to say to do, just do. And it, like I said, it just depends.
I mean, even if
on-
they don't tell you that, they probably meant it anyway.
Yeah.
So just do it
You should
anyway.
probably like and
Yeah.
subscribe
You probably just
and all
like and
that
subscribe.
stuff,
Leave
right?
positive comments. Yeah.
But yeah, like it's going to depend on the reason you were stopped and what's going on as to what the directions are from that officer or deputy. So just let them know verbally. Don't point, gesture, reach. You know, don't do one of these. Hey, I got a gun. You know, that wouldn't be a good idea.
No, that would be bad.
Let them know verbally, and then just do whatever they happen to say from there, and then you'll deal with it.
Yeah. Very good. Very good. Have you run into any CCW carriers in your experience? Can you tell us about any of those experiences?
I have. So the first experience that comes to mind was probably, this is probably 6-7 years ago, maybe longer. I was driving. I was not on a call for service. I was not dispatched anywhere. I was just driving in Modesto, actually, and came across a traffic collision that had just occurred, like probably 10, 15 seconds before I came upon that area. So I was on duty, turn my lights on, immediately pull over, block traffic, and then check on the occupants of the two vehicles that were involved. The first vehicle I came to, it was a male, and he was kind of out of it a little bit. He kind of got knocked on the head. I think he was just a little dazed. And there was no major injuries, you know, nothing super serious or anything, but maybe a light concussion or something like that. But he told me, good on him. Very impressive for him to have this kind of train of thought and to be thinking about this. But obviously I was in uniform, and he immediately, the first thing, you know, he says to me, come up to him, hey man, are you okay? And he goes, hey, I have my gun in the door, you know, the little, I don't know what that area is called. The
Door
little
cubby,
storage,
whatever.
yeah,
Sure,
cubby.
yeah.
He's like, I have my gun right there. I go, okay, man, thanks. Thank you for letting me know. Are you okay? Yeah, I think I'm okay. All right, cool. I immediately grabbed the gun. It was loaded, unload it, and I go put it in my patrol car. And the reason I did that specifically is because I could tell he was a little out of it.
Yeah,
right?
solid move,
You
sure.
you never know what someone's
his
mental
bell rung.
state.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
What someone's mental state's going to be, and I don't want every call I go to, every interaction I have with the public, there's a gun involved because I have a gun on me. If I can take another gun out of the situation when it's an unpredictable situation, like this gentleman who was just in a traffic accident and kind of had his bell rung, I'm going to take that gun out
Yeah,
of that
you're just
situation.
making the environment safe for that moment.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Trying to make it as safe as possible. He already had some injuries from this traffic accident. Trying to get this gun out of the mix. Okay, the gun's out of the mix. It's in my patrol car. It's away. And then we can move on from there. So that's a situation, where I've come across it. There's also been other situations, call for service. Specifically, I remember a vehicle burglary call I had. Someone was parked. I was working in, I won't even say the name of the town, but a town on the west side of our county. There was a vehicle burglary. Responded to that. Somebody got their window broken, some stuff stolen out of there. And when I got there, the citizen told me, hey, just so you know, I have a CCW on me. I said, okay, cool. And just let him be. I didn't disarm him. I didn't say, okay, you need to turn around and put your hands on top of your head and do all this stuff. That was just the way I handled it personally. This was a victim of a crime. He was a victim of a property crime. There was no need for me to disarm him at that time. But that's dependent upon each officer or deputy that you come across, how they are going to react.
The
Have you ever
situation.
had- yeah, situation dictates it always. Have you ever had a call that you had to respond to involving a CCW that had to brandish or had to use their firearm?
I have, and before we go any further here, just for everybody out there watching, I'm not a lawyer. I am not offering legal advice in any way, shape, or form. These are all my own opinions and experiences. Also, my opinions and experiences do not represent the department that I work for in any shape or form. So these are only my own opinions. This is not legal advice. If you want legal advice, seek an attorney and talk to them.
Doesn't
regarding
reflect
that.
to the department.
Nope, does not reflect. This is on me. Don't come at us saying, "Oh, he said to do that."
Right,
Nope,
right.
nope,
Yes.
nope, nope, nope.
Yeah. Okay, so tell me about the
I like
experience
that
then
one.
with the brandishing or the use.
Yeah, so really to go into that, the way, so I guess we could start with kind of what somebody would experience, right? What somebody would go through if you ended up having to use a firearm, whether you're at your house or in a public setting. It really won't change too much, but I'll kind of explain what that's going to look like, right? So if you end up using your firearm, obviously, you can expect a heavy police presence, especially if somebody was actually shot. So expect lights and sirens, cops to be showing up. You are likely, very likely, going to have a gun drawn and pointed at you from a law enforcement officer. You have to think from a law enforcement officer's perspective. We are getting dispatched to a call, one man shot another man. Sometimes that's all we have. Mm-hmm. Sometimes we have zero circumstances, especially, if an outside person is the one that called. Oh, I was driving down the street and I saw this guy shoot this other guy. We have no idea if it's a self-defense situation, if this is a targeted shooting, if this was a murder, if this was some lover's quarrel. We have zero context sometimes. All we know is guy A shot guy B. That's it. That's all we know sometimes. So you have to understand, we'll show up, likely will be guns in your face. You will be disarmed. You will likely be handcuffed, be placed into the back seat of a patrol vehicle. You can expect, especially if somebody dies, if somebody is shot and then somebody dies from being shot, you can expect a plethora of things to be taken as evidence. DNA swabs, your cell phone, the gun itself, any surveillance footage. If you happen to be at your house and you have surveillance cameras like a lot of people do, there is going to be search warrants written to recover that surveillance footage. There will likely be a search warrant written for your home and vehicles. And you're going to have detectives searching through your home and your vehicles and your cell phone and your computer and pretty much everything you have to try to figure out exactly what happened. So all of that is going to happen. They're going to speak to neighbors or any witnesses, anybody that was close in the area. All that is going to be, all of those avenues are going to be gone down by the responding deputies, officers, or detectives.
And this is this is protocol that would take place not just in the home, but would this take place also if someone was a carrier out in public somewhere?
Yes, exactly. None of that would change. Everything would be the same. The response to somebody being shot. Now, if a weapon is only brandished and maybe not actually discharged, at least at the agency I work for and in the area we are in currently, you're likely not going to have a detective response for a brandishing alone of,
Let me give you an example real fast, and you can kind of play on that. You're in a area where business hours are pretty much closed, let's say night. Maybe we're in a parking lot or on a street somewhere, you're trying to get to your car. Hooded individual approaches you in an aggressive manner. You tell them to get back, they don't do so. You brandish your CCW, they run off. As a result, you've been told by Fred's Firearms and the other places maybe you've taken your training from to always, if there's an incident, any means, you make a report about it. You make the report, officer shows up, and then what?
So, in that instance, that specific instance, you're probably going to get one, maybe two deputies or officers responding to that. You're not going to have a detective response for something like that, most likely. I can't speak for, every agency out there. And it's most likely going to be a little bit more of a simple investigation, getting statements from you, trying to locate this person that tried to rob you or do whatever, get some surveillance footage, and it's going to be a lot lower level of an investigation.
Yeah, it's a CYA basically.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly, yeah. Just trying to figure out exactly what happened, document this, and if we can find this person that attempted to rob you or assault you, whatever the case may be, then, get some surveillance footage, identify this person, and then go over there and seek them out. But, what I was talking about earlier was more of a extreme response, I guess, would be to somebody actually shot or somebody shot and that did eventually, expire or die. That's kind of the situation that you'd be experiencing for that. A big topic is interviews as well, because once you are detained, you are detained by law enforcement. You have shot somebody. It's possibly a crime. Detectives are going to want to speak with you. Now, again, as I mentioned a few minutes ago, I'm not a lawyer. I'm not offering any legal advice. The decision to give a voluntary statement is going to be very dependent upon you and exactly what happened. There are pros to giving a statement and there are cons to giving a statement. So it's a very fluid situation, and it really depends on.
In the last episode, episode 5, we spoke about legal defense and insurance for CCW carriers, and we talked about the difference of the two. And there's really only in California a legal defense fund that people buy into. For this situation that you're talking about, what do you think about the legal defense funds?
Legal defense fund, I mean, I see the opportunity for a benefit. That there possibly could be a benefit. But in reality, I guess this is thinking ideologically, right? If you did everything you were supposed to do and you didn't do anything wrong, you would have no use for an attorney, right?
Correct.
But there always are instances of unjust, prosecution of people for maybe they did everything right, and you have an overzealous district attorney or whatever it is. So I
Trying to
see,
make a statement.
Yeah, I see there is an opportunity there for it to pay off. Me personally, that's not something I would endorse, like some sort of legal defense fund. But I mean, who am I? I don't know.
Sure, yeah. It's an interesting topic that we get asked all the time, and I have not yet endorsed a legal defense fund. I let people go out there and get it themselves. Believe it or not, Mike and I have gotten a couple emails to endorse them for monetary reasons, and we've decided not to do so. We've spoken with a lot of experts in the field for insurance, and we just kind of leave that up to the student if they want to do it. Like I said, the last episode we had some people on here that were talking that it kind of gives you that warm and fuzzy feeling, and there's nothing wrong with that. For
Yeah.
$20-$30 a month,
It's a peace of mind.
It's a peace of mind. There's nothing wrong with that at all.
Warm
So
and
just
fuzzies.
Read your fine print and make sure you understand it before you do it. Anything else you want to touch on before I?
Yeah, a couple other things. So the interview or to not get interviewed, right? That like we kind of touched on that for a second and then we kind of moved on. But I just want to say, like, if you are in a self-defense type situation, the choice to interview is a big one. If you're going to agree, right? Because you're going to get read your Miranda rights, and you're not being forced to talk. So you can answer the interview questions with a detective or not. And part of that, one thing you have to think about is there are some things that only you will know. You as the person that used the firearm. There are some things that only you will know. And those things may not be able to be determined from evidence. Like if you felt fear, detectives might not be able to determine that unless you say, yes, I was scared. Right? So those are some things to consider. But you could also, there's another option, you can give an interview with your attorney present if your attorney agrees to that. So it's not either you do it now or you do it never. You can always, if you want to give a statement to detectives, that's something that you can do at a later date. It really is dependent. look at my notes here real quick. I have a couple other points. Now, at the end of this investigation, right, and by the end I mean like the end of the day type of thing, there's a couple different options that can happen. You're most likely going to be detained, right? You may be, worst case scenario, right, would be you are arrested. You are arrested and booked into jail by whatever law enforcement agency is investigating this incident. You can be arrested, but you can also not be charged by the district attorney's office, okay? So arrested, DA's office doesn't decide to press charges, to actually file charges on you, you will be released. There's also a flip side to that coin, though. You may not be arrested at the time because the law enforcement officials, the detectives investigating this crime say, you know what, yeah, we looked at all this. We're not going to arrest him at this time for shooting this person. We think it was justified. They write everything up, send it off to the DA's office. The DA's office may have a different opinion. They may say, you know what, we think, John Jones over here did commit this crime. He should not have shot this person. We don't think it was justified, and we are going to press charges on him, and then you could get a warrant issued for your arrest. With murder, straight up murder, you tried to kill somebody and you wanted to kill them, and you did do that, there is no statute of limitations. Forever.
Unalived.
Forever.
Remember that and the responsibility of carrying a firearm.
Yep.
With manslaughter, though, with manslaughter, there is a statute of limitations. There are several different versions of manslaughter. Those statute of limitations go from 3 years up to 6 years. So it depends on exactly what happened. We would need a whole nother episode to talk about the different versions of manslaughter. But there is anywhere between 3 and 6 years of statute of limitations. And what statute of limitations means, for anybody out there that doesn't know, is basically, let's say the year 2020, something happened. You ended up having to shoot somebody for whatever reason. Statute of limitations is how long after the fact you could still be arrested and tried for that crime. So if it's a 3-year statute of limitations and it happened in January 1st of 2020, they would have until January 1st, 2023 to try you for that
The crime
violation of the crime.
expires after a
Yes.
certain amount of time.
Yes, exactly. It's kind of like
It's a lot, yeah. It's a lot to soak in. It really is. And this is the thing where, people in California, they say, 16 hours is too long. Well, I mean, some of the stuff that Philip's talking about right now, we don't go over in CCW. We go over some of the 4 counts to keep you out of trouble.
Because it would be
We
like
go
an
over-
academy. I mean,
It really would. It would be a long
months.
time. So it's things that, as a carrier, as a gun person, understand this kind of thing. If you're toting it, it's a big responsibility. I do want to talk about another responsibility that a lot of people don't think about. We go out to the range on a regular basis. We talk about insurance. Real insurance would be protecting yourself at all times. A little bit of sports I did when I was younger, I actually got 6 months TAD service in the Marine Corps, Camp Pendleton. I got to get on the boxing team, and it was great. And I had a little bit of experience when I was early in high school doing that kind of stuff. So one of the main rules that I remember for the rest of my life is protect yourself at all times. Protect yourself at all times. Okay, so that's kind of what we're talking about right now. And I want to talk about top safety solutions, protecting yourself at all times. I'm going to let Philip talk about this because he is one of the founders of this company, and it's very important, and it's not expensive to get into. And a lot of people that come out to the range with us, Mike or I will ask them who here has a med kit, and it's the paramedics, it's the firefighters that come out that have it because they understand the importance. The people that have other types of jobs, equally as important, however, they're just not emergency response jobs. Most of them don't have that kind of thing. So why don't you talk a little bit about top safety?
Yeah, so I'll do a super abbreviated kind of history of TOP. So me and 2 other guys, I don't know if we mentioned it, part of our SWAT team for my department, but me and 2 other guys who actually aren't part of the SWAT team anymore just because they've kind of moved on for things in their lives. And one of them doesn't even work for us anymore. He's actually retired now. But we started this company, Top Safety. And TOP is an acronym, TOP. T is for tourniquet, O is for occlusive dressing, and P is for packing. As you can see, our little guy here, He's got different colors on his, outline here. The red area is for tourniquets, where you would put a tourniquet if you have an injury. Blue is for the occlusive dressing, and the green is for the packing. That's kind of where we got the term top. And it's this kit here. We tried to make it color coordinated. So red here, arms and legs, and then you got the red here. You know that you need to use a tourniquet. Green is for packing. You can see the junction wound area. Green is for you can pack a wound, and then O for occlusive dressing, right in that area here. And that's where you would use an occlusive dressing. It's 3 of the most common injuries that somebody would sustain with a gunshot wound. It's an acronym we used on the SWAT team to, quickly remember, if somebody's injured, what do we do? We realized there was a need for this. We kind of put it into packaging and to make it as simple as possible for people. And then we created this product.
Yeah.
Our website is topthebleed.com. TOPthebleed.com.
So think of stop the bleed, but say top the bleed.
yeah.
Because
Exactly.
It's Top Safety Solutions. So topthebleed.com.
Take out the S.
Yeah, exactly. Take out the S. This is something we started. We think it's a great tool. Anybody can use it. We put very simple instructions here on the back, so you can kind of open this up. The idea is, you recognize, okay, the injury's here. You get the correct tool, and then you kind of open this up like a book, lay it flat, and then you can read the directions. Okay, I'm going to do this, and then you do whatever you need to.
Yeah.
There's also some tutorials and introduction and educational videos that they do at Top Safety, which are really good to kind of go over that stuff. If you're a husband and wife or a group of people that are CCW carriers or just gun enthusiasts, it's always good to understand a tourniquet. It's good to have that on your person while you're on the range. And look, we're going to knock on wood right now because we don't want anything to ever happen. And the policies that are set forth from my agency have been very successful without having any kind of injuries like that. But we have had negligent discharges in the past, and this would have been a great tool. The guys that I use are all either current or former law enforcement, so they were able to just pick it up like that, correct the situation, and make sure that there was no major injury or death, thank God. But I recommend this kind of stuff to keep in your car, even if you're not a gun person. Keep it in the house. Honestly, people should have these kind of things, man. I mean, these are the kind of things that keep the
saves
heart and
lives.
the blood flowing. It does. It saves
100%.
lives. So.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Well, I know that the team got big into it after an unfortunate accident that happened during sniper training a long time ago.
Yeah.
Not mentioning any names, but without that, he wouldn't be here today.
100%.
Yeah, 100%. So this is a great thing. Like you said, topthebleed.com and order yours and get it out there because it's for a good price. This thing will last you forever. I keep one in my shooting range kit. I keep a couple of them here in the shop. I even keep one in my vehicle when I'm driving around. And it's
During incidents like that, I mean, it's like people say, when the feces hits the osculator, your mind's racing. Even in law enforcement, it's when you're in the shit, your mind is racing, and stuff like that. It's the term, keep it simple, stupid, and it's laid out for you, so you can, go through that easily.
100%. Yeah.
Okay.
Try to make it as simple as we could.
Yeah, and you guys did a great job. I love it, absolutely. Let's shift gears. Jimmy, I want you to tell me a little bit about checkering.
Oh, okay, we'll do it on this one. This right here is a 1911 Springfield frame that I checkered. Usually I do hand checkering. I've had a checkering fixture for the mill for quite a while. I just haven't used it. And I used it, was it just the other day for the first time? Yeah. It's called the Keller checkering fixture. And we did this one is 25 lines per inch. It's amazing.
It feels nice. I held it earlier.
Yeah, it is.
I liked it.
It is completely different. I mean, it speeds up the process too. The hand checkering takes about close to 8 hours. That, an hour and a half.
If someone brought you and dropped off, because I know you already have, firearms that you're in the middle of right now that you don't want to set aside. Yeah. But if somebody came in and they dropped one off, how long do you think it would take to do a checkering job like that?
if their turn was up after setup, I would say for the job, maybe setting because you got to put the fixture in the middle and set it up. I would say probably about 2 hours.
2 hours, but that would be that would be not necessarily the same day, 2 hours.
No.
Yeah.
That's when their turn hit
Right.
up, and
Okay.
and getting it in the
You
row.
think-
But yeah,
Do you think that something like that if you're like, would you do something like that if it was, hey, I've got 3 of these guys that dropped off these firearms and everything else. I know I've got all this other stuff that's going to take a long time. Let me take a half day or maybe a day to get these 3 firearms
Yeah.
done. Do you think that you might be able to turn something over in a couple weeks?
Yeah, because that fixture, say if there was 3 and each one of them wanted, the same 125 lines per inch or whatever, that fixture, which I haven't tried it yet, but it is supposed to be repeatable. Where I put it, I put it in the fixture and I do the verticals first. I cut the verticals, take this one out, put the other one on, do the verticals on the other one. Then I flip the fixture up and then cut the radials on it. Just keep rotating. Take this one out, put the next one in. It's supposed to be like as soon as you zero that fixture in there, it's supposed to be in place to where all you'd have to do is change the frame, and you get the same, precision on it.
Now, I noticed
So-
that you've got a few tools that are up on the table. Are those tools for checkering?
No, it's just a few different tools. We got calipers here. There's a lot more tools. Well, back at my bench, there's
Yeah. Oh, I know.
several thousands of dollars in 1911 tools, but these are just a few things that you could do at home. You could do a lot of stuff, not the checkering, but
No,
you
they
could do a
can't do
lot of
what you
stuff.
do.
No.
What would you say, though, Jimmy, if somebody is wanting to get started as a hobbyist and an enthusiast, like what would be the first tool out of the ones on the table that you would encourage them to get?
Calipers, a
Show that-
mic.
show
You
that- show
don't
that caliber
have
real
to.
quick.
You don't have to get the digital. I just like the digital, and Bill keeps getting mad at me. Stop with that digital shit.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I like
Old
the
school, you want the
digital.
dial. He likes the
Yeah.
digital. I like
Yeah.
the digital myself. It just tells me the numbers. I don't have to guess. Yeah.
So these are calipers.
that's a veneer
they're really
caliper,
good.
correct?
Yeah. Well, no, this is the digital.
But is this a digital veneer?
Yeah. Yeah. Anyway, they're the calipers, and I like the digital ones. You want to get a decent ones. There's, you can buy ones for $11. They're good, but if you're wanting to do it, if you're just a hobbyist and you're doing your stuff at home, the $11, the cheap one is fine. But if you're really serious into it, you want to spend the money to get the good ones, the correct ones. 'cause it
eBay
does
has a
make
lot of pretty
difference.
cool stuff too,
Yeah.
man, where they've got like some used Japanese or American made, which are the more expensive ones.
Exactly.
And you can
that's
get
the
them.
thing. You can buy a eBay used Mitatoya Japanese one.
It's still certified as well.
Yeah, they're really good. Yeah,
And they'll
then-
be about a quarter of the cost of what they normally are.
Exactly.
You get a good, Japanese or American made one. You're going to spend about $180 to $250 on one.
Yeah, that
where-
was about 200. This one was a little more. This was about 270. This is the mic digital Mitatoya. I love Mitatoya.
Or micrometer.
Stereo.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, the full name, micrometer. Yeah.
Yeah.
And just some files. You want a hammer? This is soft.
That's brand new, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah.
He just bought
I
it.
went through several of
warranted,
them.
so.
Yeah, I went through several of them. You go through them a lot. You always want. I brought this out because I love the Sharpies. You can use Dicom or the Sharpies. So that way, if you're fitting something, you mark it, and when you put it in, you fit it, and it kind of rubs the area off that it's rubbing against. And you know where to file, and files. So if you're starting, you want to get some calipers, a mic, a hammer, and files.
Where would be a good place to get a starter kit like that?
God, I hate going corporate, but
Starrett, Brownells, Midway?
Brownells.
Brownells, yeah, okay.
Brownells would be a good one. Midway, they're good, but Midway for some reason takes forever. You order something, and I don't care if you put rush next day to be there in a month.
I've had mixed experiences with them. Yeah.
Brownells, they're usually pretty good. They're pretty quick. They're not that. Actually, nowhere is next day.
A lot of these
anymore.
tools as well, like Starrett, you can get a lot of these tools. The automotive industry uses a lot of these tools
Yeah.
as well.
Oh, yeah.
Really, yeah.
Oh yeah.
So, what else you want to talk about? You had some other subjects, didn't you?
So
Give some good stories.
The only other thing I had a kind of little bullet point here that it was really how to safeguard yourself if you end up having to use your CCW or a firearm, even if it's at your home, if it's not out in public, you know. Some things that I don't think doesn't get brought up. Now, if you were in a CCW class with me, I know I brought it up because it's something that I think is very important. But I don't know if this gets brought up in all the classes. So anybody out there who has attended a CCW class from a different vendor or maybe hasn't been to a CCW class yet, and some things they don't think about. So one thing people have to understand is you can really only use a firearm or any weapon that is possible of, you know, bodily harm or death. You can really only use that in defense of another human life. Yeah. And what does not count, and a lot of people think it does count, is animals. So if somebody is harming or trying to kill, the most common thing is like a dog, like your own dog. A dog in California and federal law is only property. A dog, no matter how nice, how expensive, how much you love your dog, will never, ever, 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 ever equal a human life.
That's an interesting point.
Ever.
Yeah, because a lot of us treat our dogs like kids, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, we have all the kids home right now, right? But, I mean, my wife and I are empty nesters now, so the kids are all grown and we've got grandkids and they're staying over the weekend and they're going to go home and we'll be home alone. And we've got our little Phoebe, our little Jack Russell Terrier, and she's great. She's like our new little kid. But yeah, you're absolutely right. You know, not a lot of people think about that. We do mention the human life in our CCW, but we don't get into detail about animals because he's absolutely right. You cannot defend your animal with a CCW firearm legally. You know, you can't smoke a person.
No, you can't.
To be blunt, if somebody is killing your dog, you cannot kill that person.
Now, how about another
You
dog?
can to be very blunt.
Beat the
How about
crap out of that
another dog?
person to try and
Yes,
stop them.
you can. But if somebody doesn't matter really what they're doing to your dog, chopping its head off with a samurai sword.
I mean, we can get really detailed.
If
right
you
now.
shoot that person, you are probably going to jail. If you do that. So just understand, an animal is considered property. So that is something.
What
that's
about
a good point.
another dog attacking your dog?
Now another dog, again, it's property.
Yeah.
You know.
So absolutely.
So can you defend your property against property?
Sure, you can.
Yes, you can.
And here's the deal: if a
Just
dog
throw in the
is,
mix
if a
in there.
dog is attacking you, or if a dog is attacking any of your property, absolutely
Yeah.
you can. Remember that, everybody, when you're letting your dog off your leash. If they run over into your neighbor's yard and they do something stupid and your neighbor smokes it or something, your neighbor's going to get away with it.
And I know some people probably think, why would someone shoot a person to protect their dog? It's happened.
Also,
It has happened.
So the two most common things that I would get or have gotten as an instructor for a CCW class is dogs. That's a big one, and cars. And what I mean by cars is someone's breaking into your car. If your car is parked in front of your house, and somebody's breaking into your car, has nothing to do with your house. They're not coming into your house. They're not trying to kick your door down. There is nothing in your car unless there is a person in there,
Correct.
like a child they're trying to kidnap or something.
And you shouldn't be leaving your
There
kid
is
unattended in your
nothing
car.
in
Yeah.
your car that is worth as much as a human life.
Yeah.
Correct.
No matter what. It
Even
could
if that
be
human life is a tweaker piece of crap that
could
hasn't
be
had a bath in a month and is on
$10 million. It could be $10 million in cash. Does not matter. A human
No.
life is worth more than that.
Correct.
According to the federal
It's
and
to
state
defend life.
government.
Yep. Do
Not
not
someone
kill
else's-
people over
yeah.
property. You only defend
Ever.
yourself with human life. You're
It
absolutely right.
is
It's
a
great
very,
point.
very bad thing, right? So those were 2 points I wanted to make. The couple other things, especially with kind of macho, like strong guys, like, oh yeah, I'm not scared of anything. Nothing scares me. Okay, if nothing scares you, you can never shoot anybody ever.
Yeah. Because you have to be in fear for your life or
You
others.
have to be in fear for your life or others. So if you are never scared, you can never use a firearm. So the reason I bring that up,
That's
right?
a great point, man. That really is.
Well,
I
yeah,
mean, I
because
don't
that's
think that
the
people.
part in there.
Yeah.
Fear
Right.
for life.
Absolutely. Fear for your life is the only way, yeah. And if you are a big macho guy and you're going to go
Or
out there
the
and
life
brag to
of
people that
someone
you can
else.
kick anybody's ass or whatever, well, you don't need a gun then. You can
Well, yeah,
already-
exactly.
You can already overtake people with firearms and kick their butt and everything else, yeah.
Oh, it's because it's the fear for your life or someone else's
Yeah,
life. So.
and if you're the most badass, strong dude, okay, then why do you have a gun? You can never shoot at anybody ever if you are never scared of anything, right? So just be realistic, right? Yeah,
So
we're
you're
all,
saying I got to give up my gun.
yes, you do.
It's a
Because
tough
I know,
one.
I know.
Stupid.
I mean, look at those pipes,
Pipes over here, yeah.
right? No, but in reality, right? Like, yes, everyone's the tough guy. Everybody wants to be strong for their family and everything. But when it comes down to it, if you do end up having to use your firearm in defense of yourself or somebody else, you just need to be honest. If you decide to give that interview to the detectives, you need to be honest. Say, yeah, I was scared.
Right.
I thought
I was
that
in fear for
person
my
was
life.
going to kill me.
Yes.
I thought that person was
Yeah.
going to kill my wife.
It's not the
son,
time to act macho.
daughter. Exactly. Yeah.
Why did you shoot that guy running down the hallway in his back? He was going into my daughter's room and I thought he was going to kill my daughter.
100%. So
Boom.
you need to be honest and say, yes, I was scared, right? So saying, oh, nothing scares me, because I've taught tons of CCW classes, hundreds, if not thousands of students. And that's a question I would ask. Are you scared of anything? No, nothing scares me. Okay, might as well leave then if nothing scares
Right.
you, because there's no reason for you to have a gun. Right, so it was just something I would do to kind of put people in the right frame of mind. And the last point I want to bring up, the last thing I want to say is create witnesses and give warnings. And what I mean by that is if you have somebody breaking into your house or challenging you to a fight in the middle of the street or on the sidewalk, I want people out there to scream
Yeah,
as
correct.
loud as they can.
Stop! I have a gun.
Stop! I have a gun. I don't want to shoot you. If you keep coming at me, I will shoot you.
Right.
I'm scared of you.
Yep.
I will defend myself. You know,
Creates witnesses.
it creates, even if somebody doesn't see what happened, right? Maybe they're around a corner. Maybe they're inside a business. They
Get
didn't.
into that practice, yes.
I had no idea what happened. I didn't see. Well, you know what? I did hear a guy yelling like,
Stop.
like,
Great
stop,
point.
I
Great
have
point.
a gun or
Absolutely.
something like that. But
That is a good
I have no
point.
idea what happened. I don't know. I just heard some people yelling, and I heard something about I have a gun. Whatever, right? At the moment, people think, oh, that doesn't mean anything. The law enforcement officer and the detective in me is like, no, that's huge.
He
That's
did
a
warn the guy.
Big deal. He told him, hey, stop, I have a gun. And he kept coming.
Yeah.
Right? That's a very big deal for those of you out there that are carrying a firearm. If you do that, you create witnesses.
Yes.
You create a defense for yourself. Right?
Give warning if the opportunity presents itself, and the opportunity most likely is going to present itself. You are absolutely right. Give warning.
Give warning and be as loud as you can.
Yes.
Create witnesses. Because in my experience, and I know probably a quarter mile to a half mile radius, every business, every house, doors are going to get knocked on. Hey, did you hear anything? Did you see anything? Do you have surveillance footage? Right? Even if you don't hear it yourself, oh, you know what? I don't know. I got cameras in the backyard though, and maybe the cameras are going to pick up the audio of you yelling, hey, stop, I have a gun. I don't want to shoot you. Stop, stop. Those are the things that can exonerate you.
Well, it's stacking
and keep-
evidence in your corner.
Exactly.
Right.
100%. 100%.
No, I love it, man. Those are great points.
Yeah, that
They
is
are.
really good.
You guys got anything else?
I got a little bit of beer left that I'm going to finish real quick.
All right, let's finish up that beer. I think it's a good time to wrap it up. I want to thank everybody for tuning in. Episode 6, stay tuned for episodes 7 and 8. All right, guys.
Peace.
See
All
you
right,
guys.
Bye, everybody.
Thank you.